just an untalented, stubborn idiot who doesn't know how to admit when he's wrong.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
I'm sorry, too, because it's obvious that I'm just going to have to play the song myself. So
I don't think that you're actually going to... Oh, my God! You wrecked it!
He once ran away from home after leaving a tear-stained letter on the kitchen table, only to later turn that exact address number into the name of his iconic recording studio. And in 2024, he publicly admitted to fathering a child outside his marriage, shaking the foundation of his nicest guy in rock reputation. Quiz time. Which over-the-top band did Dave Grohl almost join as a teenager, and even started designing his own monster costume for? Drop your guesses in the comments. I'll reveal the answer later in the video. Stay tuned for the heartbreaking letter that changed his life and the basement tape that secretly launched a rock empire. But to truly understand how Dave Grohl became one of the most loved and layered figures in music, we've got to rewind the clock and uncover the pivotal moments that shaped everything. The punk kid with pillow drums. It's the early 1980s in suburban Springfield, Virginia, an era of mixtapes, BMX bikes, and basement posters of Led Zeppelin and Kiss. But for young Dave Grohl, life wasn't just about teen rebellion. It was about survival. His parents divorced when he was 6, and while his journalist father remained emotionally distant, his mother, Virginia, a high school English teacher, became his fiercest ally. By age 13, Dave was already falling hard for punk rock. That summer, while visiting his cousin in Evanston, Illinois, he was taken to a Naked Ray Gun gig at a dingy club near Wrigley Field. The raw, sweaty chaos of that night seared into him. He didn't just see music, he felt purpose. That moment would come full circle years later, but for now, it sparked an obsession. With no drum kit and no formal lessons, he built a practice set out of pillows on the floor, thrashing along to Bad Brains and Minor Threat. He even tattooed Led Zeppelin drummer John Bonham's rune on his arm with a sewing needle and ink. Music wasn't just a hobby, it was his identity. At school, he wasn't exactly following the rules either. As class vice president at Thomas Jefferson High School, Dave hijacked the morning announcements to blast punk through the intercom. He was soon transferred. Then again. Eventually, he dropped out altogether at 17 to tour with the band Scream. His mother didn't stop him. She helped pack his bags. But the real emotional turning point came in 1985. After a brutal argument with his father, Dave left a handwritten letter on the table and ran away from home. That letter didn't just end a fight, it started his life. The address, apartment 606, a number that would come to define his legacy. Still, it wasn't until tragedy struck and a band imploded that the world would hear what he was truly capable of. The beat behind a broken empire. After dropping out of high school and hitting the road with Scream, Dave Grohl became a teenage drumming prodigy in the hardcore punk scene. But everything changed in 1990 when he auditioned for a struggling Seattle band called Nirvana. Within a year, Nevermind exploded, and Dave found himself behind the drum kit for one of the most influential rock bands in history. It was a dream, until it wasn't. Despite the fame, Grohl described feeling invisible during Nirvana's rise. He only recalls Kurt Cobain complimenting him twice. When Cobain died in 1994, Grohl was emotionally wrecked. He refused to play music for months, even turning down a full-time gig with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. It would have felt like losing Kurt all over again, he admitted. Instead, he went inward, channeling his grief into a secret solo project where he played every instrument himself. The result? A raw demo tape that became the debut Foo Fighters album. What began as therapy became a full-blown band and, eventually, an empire. Foo Fighters evolved with him through breakups, makeups, and nearly calling it quits when drummer Taylor Hawkins overdosed in 2001. Grohl said if Hawkins hadn't survived, he would have walked away from music altogether. He didn't, and in true Grohl fashion, he bounced back with reinvention after reinvention, forming a supergroup, Them Crooked Vultures, after a medieval times birthday party, directing the Sound City documentary, creating the Sonic Highways HBO series, and even starring in a gory horror comedy, Studio 666. All of it tied together by instinct, heart, and a refusal to be boxed in. Yet for all the stadium tours, Grammys, and documentaries, it's what Dave Grohl does when the cameras are off, at the grill, in the kitchen, or behind the wheel, that reveals the quirks, chaos, and quiet contradictions of his real life. The BBQ Rockstar. For a guy who's headlined every major festival on Earth, Dave Grohl's idea of joy might surprise you. It's not private jets or diamond-studded guitars. It's standing over a giant smoker for 16 hours, slow-cooking brisket to feed homeless families during a California rainstorm. No fanfare, no press team. Just Dave, a truckload of meat, and a mission. That mission has a name. Backbeat BBQ, his passion-fueled side project that combines his love for grilling with philanthropy.
We've been making barbecue a long time using the smokers that we have. Usually we feed maybe like 300 people, maybe we get to 400 people.
He's shown up to feed firefighters during wildfires, volunteered quietly at shelters, and handled every detail himself, from sourcing wood to scrubbing trays. When asked why he does it, Grohl just shrugs and says, "It's the least I can do." There's something beautiful in the contrast. This is the same guy who once shouted into a mic until his voice gave out on a global tour, now whispering kindness over a plate of ribs. Fresh pots and loud thoughts. Of course, no look into Grohl's lifestyle would be complete without mentioning coffee. A lot of coffee. Early in the Foo Fighters' rise, Grohl's obsession got so out of hand the band made a spoof video titled Fresh Pots, documenting his descent into caffeinated madness. He drank entire pots in one go until doctors told him to stop or risk a heart attack. But that high-octane habit mirrors his entire approach to life. Grohl lives loud. He even refuses to wear in-ear monitors during concerts, choosing old-school wedge speakers instead. Why? Because he wants to feel the crowd, even if he's been reading lips for 20 years due to hearing loss. As mentioned earlier, it's part of the price he pays for a life lived at full volume. Dad versus Rockstar. That same intensity shows up in his family life, but in quieter ways. One night he's headlining a festival in front of 60,000 fans. The next morning, cooking pancakes for his daughters and cleaning syrup off the counter. He once flew home in the middle of a tour just to make it to a daddy-daughter dance. Rockstar swagger meets PTA dad energy, but it hasn't always been perfect. In 2024, Grohl shocked fans by announcing he'd fathered a daughter outside of his marriage, a public confession that rattled his family image. We'll dive into that emotional aftermath in the next section, but it marked a sharp turn in how the world saw him and maybe how he saw himself. Still, his daughters remain a core part of his life. Violet has performed on stage with him. Harper got her first piano lesson from Paul McCartney, and little Ophelia once joined him on a children's TV show. These aren't just celebrity kids. They're part of his band of life. Weird hobbies, stranger friends. And then there's the weird stuff. Grohl's not just into music and meat, he's deep into UFO lore. Foo Fighters, after all, were named after World War II-era slang for flying saucers. He's known to read paranormal books to his kids at night, slipping alien theories between bedtime stories. This quirky curiosity bleeds into his social circle too. Like the Time country star Zac Brown randomly offered him a tactical knife and actually gave it to him at the Grammys. Grohl now owns a blade the size of his forearm thanks to that bizarre but heartfelt gesture. And then there's the Prince story. As mentioned earlier, Grohl was too nervous to jam live with Prince the first time he was asked. But later, in an empty LA arena, the two tore through Zeppelin's Whole Lotta Love in a private session Grohl called a dream come true. No cameras, no crowd, just magic. These moments, ridiculous, raw, and real, are what shape Dave Grohl's lifestyle. Not the cars, not the headlines, but the sheer unpredictability of a life lived with heart, humor, and just enough chaos to keep it interesting. Nonetheless, if his daily life is a study in contradictions, it's nothing compared to the personal relationships that have defined, and sometimes nearly destroyed, him. the rock star who broke and built bonds. Dave Grohl might be rock's eternal everyman, but his relationships, romantic and otherwise, have been anything but simple. His first marriage to photographer Jennifer Youngblood fell apart in the late 90s, a breakup Grohl later admitted was his own fault. "My infidelities," he said plainly, owning the pain he'd caused. Around that same time, he was dating Louise Post of Veruca Salt. That relationship ended in one of the messiest ways imaginable. Grohl dumped her over the phone while on tour, reportedly to pursue actress Winona Ryder. Post, blindsided and heartbroken, hit the stage drunk that night. It was so bad Foo Fighters guitarist Pat Smear, who was close with both women, quit the band for a while in solidarity. As the years passed, Grohl worked hard to distance himself from that chaos. In 2003, he married producer Jordyn Blum, and for 2 decades they built what looked like a rock-solid family. Their daughters, Violet, Harper, and Ophelia, became fixtures in Grohl's public and private world. From bedtime stories with Joan Jett to surprise stage performances with Paul McCartney, Grohl's role as a father seemed to anchor him. Then came 2024. Grohl publicly confessed that he had fathered a 4th daughter outside of his marriage. It shocked fans, rattled his family, and shattered the illusion that the nicest guy in rock was immune to serious mistakes. His eldest daughter temporarily wiped her social media, and Grohl, visibly shaken, pledged to be present for all of his children while doing everything he could to regain trust. Yet even through these turbulent moments, Grohl's enduring friendships have stayed strong. From quietly jamming with Prince to standing by David Letterman post-heart surgery, his loyalty has often spoken louder than his lyrics. Nonetheless, for a man who's wrestled with fame, family, and forgiveness, what he's built financially and what he's chosen not to tells its own powerful story. The fortune that never ruled him. Dave Grohl's net worth stands at an impressive $330 million. This wealth stems from his multifaceted career as a musician, songwriter, and director. As the frontman of Foo Fighters and former drummer of Nirvana, Grohl has not only achieved critical acclaim but also substantial financial success. Notably, he owns the masters to all Foo Fighters albums, licensing them to Sony BMG while maintaining 100% ownership of the catalog. In addition to album sales, Grohl's income is bolstered by the Foo Fighters' status as one of the highest-grossing touring acts globally. Their consistent touring over more than 2 decades has significantly contributed to his earnings. Furthermore, Grohl's involvement in various projects, such as directing documentaries like Sound City and Sonic Highways, and collaborations with other artists, have diversified his income streams. In 2023, Grohl expanded his portfolio by partnering with Crown Royal for a Super Bowl 57 commercial aligning with the brand's generosity mission. Cited Zero Search 20. This collaboration not only showcased his versatility but also added a new dimension to his revenue sources. Yet, despite this substantial wealth, Grohl's lifestyle choices reflect a preference for authenticity over extravagance. His real estate decisions in particular offer a window into his values and the life he's built beyond the stage. The house that Brisket built. Dave Grohl may be worth hundreds of millions, but you won't find him in some glass-walled Beverly Hills fortress. Instead, he's spent most of his adult life rooted in Encino, California, a far cry from the Hollywood Hills. In 2003, Grohl bought an 8,300-square-foot house there for $2.2 million. Now valued at nearly $7 million, the home is unassuming by celebrity standards. There's even a simple sign out front that reads, "The Grohls." No gate, no guard, just family. The home is filled with personal touches, family photos, vintage instruments, and a backyard BBQ setup where he's known to smoke brisket for hours. He's not above grocery runs or school drop-offs either. This place reflects the man. Big, but never boastful. Just a few minutes away, Grohl owns Studio 606, a former warehouse he bought in 2004 for just over $1.1 million. He transformed it into a world-class recording space by installing the legendary Neve console from Sound City, the same one used on Nevermind. It's more than a studio. It's a shrine to analog sound and creative independence. Grohl's previous homes also offer glimpses into his personality. He sold a Spanish-style home in Sherman Oaks in 2024 and a beachfront house in Oxnard at a loss back in 2015. Then there's the Seattle area home he owned in the early Foo Fighters days, where he claims to have experienced unexplained hauntings, complete with motion detectors going off and recurring nightmares. Those eerie experiences later inspired Studio 666. Yet for all his grounded domesticity, Grohl's relationship with vehicles reveals a far more unpredictable and at times reckless side of his story. The fast lane and the long way home. Dave Grohl's taste in vehicles is just as unpredictable as the rest of his life. Part practical dad, part rock star thrill seeker with a few missteps along the way. He's not flashy, but he does love a good machine. His car of choice? A Tesla Model S P100D. He once compared its ludicrous mode acceleration to being launched from a catapult, an apt metaphor for a guy who's lived most of his life at full throttle. But unlike many of his peers, Grohl never built a fleet of luxury cars. Even after Nevermind went multi-platinum, he stayed in his rented house, sleeping on a futon, with nothing but a lamp and a dresser. His history on two wheels hasn't been quite so polished. During a 2000 tour in Australia, Grohl got caught riding a scooter under the influence and had his Aussie license suspended for 3 months. True to form, he laughed it off later, but it was a glimpse into a younger, more chaotic version of himself that few fans ever saw. When it comes to private jets, Grohl keeps a relatively low profile, though they've been a source of recent tension. In early 2024, his daughter Violet faced online backlash after criticizing Taylor Swift's jet usage. Grohl couldn't resist a jab, joking on stage that the Foo Fighters tour was now the Errors Tour. Classic Dave, a bit of cheek with a fatherly edge. He doesn't own a yacht, but he has lived a boyhood dream in the sky. As a kid, Grohl wanted to be a helicopter pilot. While that never happened, he did take a scenic helicopter tour over Hawaii and shared his awe like a wide-eyed teenager. Proof that despite the fame, some dreams never lose their magic. Yet beneath the humor, the speeding Teslas, and the drunken scooter rides, Dave Grohl's current reality is far more complex, and his next chapter is revealing the most human side of him yet. The comeback written in silence. As of 2025, Dave Grohl is living in a strange in-between, somewhere between redemption and reinvention. After the bombshell revelation in 2024 that he had fathered a daughter outside his marriage, Grohl stepped out of the spotlight. He publicly apologized, pledged to be a supportive father, and admitted the pain it caused his family. His eldest daughter, Violet, temporarily deactivated her social media, and his wife, Jordyn Blum, was reportedly considering divorce. But time and honesty seems to be healing some wounds. The family spent Christmas together, and recent reports suggest they're working toward reconciliation. Grohl, ever the emotional backbone of Foo Fighters, canceled major tour plans last year. But in early 2025, he made a bold return. He reunited with former Nirvana bandmates for the Fire Aid benefit concert and later appeared at Coachella, playing Foo Fighters classics with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Violet even joined him on stage, an emotional full-circle moment for fans who watched her grow up beside him. Behind the scenes, whispers of a South American tour are growing louder, and while Grohl hasn't said much publicly, those close to him say he's channeling his energy into new music, healing through sound, like always. The letter he left on his father's table at 16 started everything, and now, decades later, he's writing another kind of letter, this time to himself. Dave Grohl's life has been anything but ordinary. What surprised you most about his story? Let us know in the comments, hit like if you felt it, and subscribe for more deep dives into iconic lives. And if you haven't already, check out our video on Nirvana's final days. It pairs perfectly with this one.